Okay. Hey, howdy, hi, good morning, Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. All right, we're awake this morning. My name is Rachel. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm your acting volunteer choir director and the member of the ever-growing HVUUC band. If it is your first time visiting us today, you are especially welcome. The visitors can go back and reach that table over there, and our coordinators will help you adjust, and they will give you a tour. Couple pieces that we need to cover before we get the service started today. Our services are filmed, and these films are posted on YouTube. Excuse me, let me back up. I'm a little too hot this morning, as we all know. Thank you, choir. All right, always having my back right here. But excuse me, as your flight director this morning, we are posting these videos on YouTube. If you do not want to be on YouTube, there are two sections that you can sit in. The sections back here to the left and the sections back here to your right. There are also non-scent zones. So if you are affected by scent, and you do not want to be on camera, those two sections will be able to help you stay off the camera and be taken care of. Our opening hymn this morning is going to be number 188 in your gray hymnal. We are all going to join together as a congregation to sing Come, Come, Whoever You Are, with the lovely James and the amazing choir backing you from our chairs. Welcome this morning to Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church.
I'm Wanda, and I'm your service leader today at our Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. I say welcome to you. If you are with us on the internet, or if you have graced us with your presence this morning, I say to you that we are one community, united to each other and our commitment to live out our principles. And you'll find those principles listed in our order of service if you need to refresh your memory. I'm pleased to tell you that in our pulpit today we have a guest. She is Brianna Olson. And Brianna is a first-timer for us, so let's all make her welcome, and I'll look forward to Brianna makes her home in Johnson City, and she completed her Master's of Divinity from the Emmanuel Christian Seminary in 2019. She has done various ministerial roles, not only in East Tennessee, but Maryland throughout various capacities. So we do say a warm welcome to you and look forward to hearing from you. We begin our service at Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church with a ritual that is very beautiful to me, and it's our chalice lighting. And today we are lighting a chalice from the Pride Flame, and it was words written by Linda Lee Franson, and Judy's going to lead us through that. And the words are, "We light this flame to ignite our hearts and our minds, the spark of knowledge that enlightens, the shimmering hope that burns, the blazing love that engulfs our actions, the bonfire of our commitment. We light this flame for those who celebrate themselves, who fear, who hope, who persevere, who stand on the side of love for all. We light this flame for those who have been ridiculed, that they may find peace, for those who have fought to marry, that they may celebrate. For those who live in the world of uncertainty, that they may have hope. We light this flame to renew our commitment that no one shall ever again suffer for the right to love. We light this flame to celebrate our kaleidoscope of diversity, working, loving, and living on the side of love. For this, we light this flame. I invite you to take just a moment to process those beautiful words from the flame. And to help us move further into our service, I'll share with you these words by the UU minister Sharon Wiley. She says, "It is said that ministers are here to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. I say we are all afflicted and we are all comfortable. May our time together this morning be a comfort and a confrontation. May we find peace in times of tumult. May we invite tumult into lives of peace. May we here find calm in times of restlessness. May we here allow restlessness to evolve into action. Let this be the place you consider what you've never considered. Let this be the place you imagine for yourself, something new, something unthinkable. May this hour bring dreams of new ways of being in the world. Come, let us worship together." We move into our Candles of Community section of our service, and it's one that gives us an opportunity to share our joys and our concerns with each other and to make sure that you are supported and welcomed here. We can do that in a number of different ways. And one is if you complete this pretty candles card that we have on the counter back there. And the only thing that we ask you do is, first of all, is to write legibly. It's real helpful to have that. And you can also let us know whether it's private or whether you'd like to have it shared in public. And remember, we are being videoed. But these are here. That's one way that you can do that. And I do have one. Actually, I have 3 candles of cards. The first one, a big candle of joy from Anne and Wayne Johnson. She must have been born, long earlier on, because Wayne and Anne are celebrating their 34th anniversary. Congratulations to both of you. I also have another candle of support for all of those who are making Pride Month, the month of June, in a public forum for your first time, choosing to be seen and heard and celebrated for who you are. And a third candle we have for all of those who aren't ready or aren't safe, celebrating who you are. But we are allies and are holding you close to heart here today. The second way that you can express your joys and sorrows is if you come up and light your own candle to the left or to the right, whichever direction you're sitting, and the candle lighters, Judy and Dottie, will help you light your own candle. We do ask that you start at the back and work up, as it's just a lot safer for your arms if you can do that. So you can start doing that as you come up. We recognize that our community is so much larger than those that are here with us in the morning. So we light a candle now to hold space for those who are not physically here with us, but are always held in our hearts. So if you're on this side, you come up on that side of the candle, or on this side, make your way up to the candles. And if you prefer for someone to light a candle for you, well, if you'll just raise your hand and I'll acknowledge you, And a candle will be lit for your intention before we leave. And we light a final candle for all that remains unspoken in our hearts and our minds.
It's an honor to be with you all today, and happy Pride Month. It feels so meaningful to be with you in this sacred space and community of faith that acknowledges the beauty and joy of the LGBTQ experience, as well as committing to the struggle and ongoing justice work for the full liberation of queer bodies. Rooted in a position of full affirmation, I believe wholeheartedly that there are theological learnings and spiritual practices to be realized in the full, life-giving affirmation and inclusion of our LGBTQ family. For me, it's important to reflect every June on the purpose of Pride Month and why it still matters that it exists. Why do we set aside a month of the year to celebrate the LGBTQ community? Well, we must, until full inclusion is realized. And we don't have to look far to notice that there are marginal but very loud voices trying to contort Pride Month into something it's not. An event that's egocentric at best and evil at worst. We remember the history of those who've come before us, how far we've come, and the work there still is to be done. Pride Month itself is rooted in a riot. This coming Saturday marks the anniversary of the 1969 Stonewall Uprising, the start of a resistance movement against the persistent raids on gay spaces at the time. A collective of people seeking safety and belonging were humiliated and persecuted time and time again. And for all of the advances in acknowledging the equality and dignity of queer people that we've made as a society and some communities of faith, we know oppression still exists today. We are a community that faces attempts at silencing, threats of erasure. Legislation is brought every session seeking to attack the protections and rights of LGBTQ people, adults and children alike. The ACLU's data found that just last year, there were over 500 anti-LGBTQ bills introduced in state houses, more in that single year than the previous 5 years combined. Our own home, Tennessee, is at the top of the list as one of the most aggressive states in advancing anti-LGBTQ laws. Around the world, LGBTQ lives are facing criminalization. Last year, the number of anti-LGBTQ hate groups recognized by the Southern Poverty Law Center increased by 1/3. Such extremism has led not only to protests and threats, but actual violence. Just 2 weeks ago, we acknowledged the Pulse Night of Remembrance, the mass shooting at a gay nightclub in Orlando 8 years ago. And it's no secret that LGBTQ people are at a higher risk for mental health crises due to mistreatment and stigmatization. And sadly, so many of our neighboring places of worship don't have any better of a track record. Attacks in these spaces, though, are brought in the name of religious liberty, and worse, in the name of God. Religious spaces often totally exclude or try to walk the line between welcoming but not affirming, placing limits on the involvement, contributions, and leadership of queer people within the church setting. As a people seeking spiritual meaning and divine connection, what can we make of these harmful realities? Where can we locate divine channels of grace amidst such distress and pain? For a community that is constantly resisting attempts of erasure, we must remember that our particularities matter. And I don't mean this in an exclusionary way as the concept of strict labels. We know that labels can be subjective and exist on spectrums and are helpful for some of us, yet constricting and unhelpful for others. But if we hold the belief that we are created in the image of the divine and each of us has inherent worth and dignity, we must pay attention to our own embodiment. Our bodies, our existences are marked with particularities, historical context, race, gender expressions, and even sexualities. The particularities of our individual personhood are integral to our understanding of a divine creator. Our embodiment is a site of divine revelation, a basic human sacrament given for the development of spirituality, grace, relationship, and human flourishing. Sacraments, we know, are physical elements, rites, rituals that enlighten us to divine mystery and love. Our humanness, our marked bodies, are a sacrament because they reflect God's own likeness. They are a symbol of the reality of the divine creation, as well as a mechanism for divine grace toward ourselves, each other, and the world around us. The queer community just demonstrates for all of us our need to resist the debasement of our own selves. We know that in our society, some bodily markings are much more privileged than others. Sadly, our particularities are often the bases for oppression, and we must resist the empires and powers of the world's attempt to define and oppress our particularities through racism, sexism, xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, ageism, you name it. So while our distinctiveness matters, we must be aware of the forces seeking to tear down our inherent created worth. Our particularities reaffirm the divine simply through our being created in a good image. Our bodies, marked with particularities, are a revelatory gift. I want to pause for just a second to acknowledge and maybe introduce for the first time to some of you to one of the most impactful liberation theologians and anthropologists in my own study and spiritual walk. In her book, In Fleshing Freedom, Body, Race, and Being, M. Sean Copeland from Boston College demonstrates how historical experiences and oppression cast certain lights on our theological ideas about embodiment and being human. I encourage the reading of her book, and I draw upon her work significantly in these thoughts today, so including now turning to the figure of Jesus. In my own Christian tradition, God's creation is moreover reaffirmed in the incarnation, which affirms that by assuming the human experience, Jesus comprehensively saves the particularities of personhood, inclusive of race, sex, gender expression, orientation, and sociological histories. And I believe this can serve as a model for how we view a wide spectrum of faith leaders, prophets, pastors, and our own selves. And if we want our own ministries to demonstrate openness, equality, and mutuality, we must demand new body practices of solidarity. Also, for a faith leader like Jesus, his crucifixion marked him as the property of an empire. His death demonstrated the cost of solidarity and integrity. And we know this to be true for a number of martyred prophets and faith leaders in aged and more recent history. As a community of faith with backgrounds in various streams of prophetic tradition, we know resistance to oppressive structures that debase bodies and nature around us come with a cost. We must recognize the divine in each of us then, fighting for the liberation of our particularities as revelations of spiritual meaning in our world and to what and who we're called to be. Lest we succumb to individualism, though, we must use our distinctiveness as a draw into greater inclusivity and deeper community with one another. Copeland says, the body is the medium through which the person as essential freedom achieves and realizes selfhood through communion with other embodied selves. Here we are today doing just that. And the relatedness of our particularities create a more holistic image of spirituality, of divinity. This Pride Month, I just came across for the first time, much to my chagrin, a piece of history from 1990. An anonymous source published an essay entitled, "Queers Read This." And the pamphlet was circulated around New York City, and it's often studied as an origin of queer theory and radical queer activism. Of all the voices and content the pamphlet contains, it also puts forth this definition. Queer means leading a different kind of life. Queer means leading a different kind of life. There is insight for all of us then to be gleaned from the lives and experiences of our queer bodies and siblings. To practice inclusion first requires the full affirmation that there is inherent divine worth in each of us. Though we are made up of particularities, none of us has a single, simplistic, isolated identity. We are uniquely our own persons, but this reality has everything to do with others and relationships. Why? Because we are socially constructed. Our singularities are a function of multiple relationships. We are made for community. In Fleshed, a liturgical collective I follow puts it this way, quote, "The individualism that infiltrates us entices us with private identities, private paths, and ensures private struggles. But queerness calls us toward living differently, not just for ourselves, but for all of us. Perceiving anew just how absurd and exhausting and sad are the hard boundaries drawn between our lives in the name of individualism, calling them lies, reaching through them toward each other, finding we are indeed one strange body. Queer as in still unfolding, friends of change, born of a great thing, unfurling, shaping, and being shaped by each other." This is why reflections and meaning creation situated in Pride Month, from the first one all the way through June's onward, must be marked by intersectional justice. Liberation for queer bodies is inherently intersectional. The queer experience does not operate at the exclusion of other forms of injustice, and freedom is still a struggle in many corners of our world. It is important to remember the long history of marginalized groups working hand in hand towards collective liberation. The fight for an equitable society must recognize the varying layers of oppression and exclusion that affect people's existence. We must equip ourselves with an intersectional lens in order to enact good activism. So where does the liberation of queer people intersect with the passions, dreams, and justice work of other areas in your life? Copeland says church teachings that repel queer bodies to the periphery of the ecclesial body and spiritual praxis bring the church much too close to betraying the great mystery of divine love that suffuses it. As a church, we are doing ourselves a great disservice if our vision of full humanity lacks solidaristic practices of justice. We must incorporate goals of social justice into our ecclesial imagination. We must go beyond simply being moved by the suffering of others to confronting, addressing, and shouldering the other's suffering, moving from mere aid and sympathy into full accompaniment, proximity, and engagement. Our ministries and lives must be an option for all genders and sexualities. It was brought to my attention just a couple of weeks ago that when you look up the definition of pride, the first antonym that comes up isn't humility or selflessness, it's shame. I checked this out for myself, and sure enough, there it was. And how about that for a reason why Pride Month remains important year after year? Shame. And we know shame's deadly. Shame teaches us that we are unworthy of love, that we are flawed and undeserving of goodness and affirmation and of a full life. For a community that's been constantly ostracized, made to feel inferior and disgusting, put down and accosted with shame, what better antidote than the boldness, courage, and audacious living that acknowledging and celebrating pride instills? In the words of Copeland, we confront imperial systems through lived example, intentionally choosing courage over conformity, moral conflict over acquiescence, and boldness over caution. And such a posture reaffirms life. May we all, this Pride Month, step forward out of the trappings of shame with courage. May we all acknowledge our inherent worth. May we recognize how we are good bodies, marked with particularities that reflect a divine image. May we see anew, with clearer vision, how that distinctiveness intersects with the lives of each other, of creation, and injustice work around us. Amen.
Girl meets boy, that's what they say. Some think that's the only way that romance blooms. Under a winking moon. But I know that the moon still shines when girl meets girl and the stars align. They're swept away. It's nature's way. A heart is a heart is a heart, and woman to woman, I think it's beautiful. Anytime two people fall in love, woman to woman. Touch and chill bumps rise, a rush of blush and bottomless sigh. She falls right in. A mystery begins.
Just as we lit our chalice in the beginning as a symbol of our hope and faith, we extinguish our chalice in that same light of holding the words close as we end our service. We're going to do this a little bit differently today. So in your order of service, you actually have a responsive reading that we are using on the first page. I'm going to start out, and my left on these sections here have a response, and from the center back, from Rosemary back to the wall, is going to be your right-hand side. So we'll be doing that responsive, and then there's the end of it that we'll do together. So we'll get through this. This is the message of our faith. This is the meaning of our chalice flame. May it empower our hearts until we meet again. Thank you. That was pretty. There have just a few announcements before we head off to coffee or our other obligations. There's been several that have been printed in your order of service. I'll draw your attention to those, please, not to read for you. But the one thing that I do want to remind you of that is on the service on July the 7th is our traditional soapbox service. So you have an opportunity to speak whatever's on your mind for only about 3 to 5 minutes, so you're going to have to be succinct about it. But you have the opportunity of owning this pulpit here for Soapbox Sunday. So that will be, mark your calendars for July. And if you have a message that you want to put forth, then we won't even screen it ahead of time. So just be aware of our audience here. Just read the announcements on your service, and that should take care. We do have a reminder for the Rainbow Festival, and that's on Saturday the 29th. And if you are inclined to do that, then please do so. Our closing hymn is coming up, and I appreciate the opportunity of being your service leader today, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the weeks to come. So, Rachel.
Thank you, Wanda, and thank you everyone for being here. So during this closing hymn, this is the time we actually collect the offering. So if you do have the ability to donate to the church, we greatly appreciate it. I would like to thank Brianna, Wanda, and everybody, all of our service leaders, for bringing this service together today. And sincerely, as a congregation, as a church, as a group, as a community, I really appreciate the ever-growing support that we have, the safe space that we have for people who are trans, who identify as LGBT, like myself, that we actually have a good space to come and remind ourselves and have a whole service discussing Pride and Pride Month. So thank you guys for having a safe space for discourse and reminding us that Pride is a protest, and especially in the state of Tennessee, showing up as allies or as yourself gives these people a safe place to remember it's okay to be themselves. It's safe to come out as trans and be in an environment where you're comfortable around people who will respect you as your ally and as your friend. With that, we're going to leave you guys with the closing hymn, number 313. So please rise with us in body or spirit for our closing hymn.
Love holds you. Love bears witness to all your inherent dignity and worthiness. It witnesses how you try, succeed, and fail, and it does not flinch. Love will not let you go. Love holds all of us.